doors would be closed to these people, one, for going to school, having the money to pay for it, into these, high art schools, and now they're creating a lane. So it creates a lane, and most of everything in this, what we hear in this room has come, it was born out of some crazy, act within the world. But so I wanted to kind of ask the question. I guess it's in the vein of this, because I'm really thinking you are talking from a consumer, from a perspective of the model and the agency, but then we go beyond that into the fashion houses and the design, where people, your and you said it before, your relationships is your power and your strength. You're able to, but what about people who don't have those? We have to deal with and figure out how, and some large companies are doing this, a lot of bias training, and we talk about intention. Your intention could be pure, but you're ignorant as hell. Yeah. And so you don't even know what you're looking at in front of you. You have no knowledge of history, and then you don't have anyone in the room. So we can create our own tables and our own lanes, but then there's still going to be situations unless we tackle it from that, unless it's tackled from the higher level and they invite people in. And I think these things are making the companies look forward. So I appreciate the cancel culture, because it creates a fear for companies. I mean, I still haven't walked back into H&M myself, right? So like, that's a beautiful thing. But will we apply for a Gucci scholarship? Sure. Right. Because that's it's meant to do something for it. So you find your lane, but I think we got to keep having these kind of conversations, but they got to be pushed up to the higher level so that doors can open. Because folks there are people who want to be there, and I've always pushed to create, for him to create his own lane, and thankfully I have a lot of good friends who definitely are supporting and pulling. So,
yes, go ahead.
I'll bring it to you now.
Hi. I wanted to ask, speaking on finding doors and creating your own lane, how do those two kind of play into each other? Say you're trying to create your own lane, but do you still have to find the doors to do that? I don't really see how they exist with each other. Myself, can you guys kind of answer how they coexist?
So it actually depends on if you want an agent, a manager, an agency, or you want to be freelance.
I know that.
Yeah. So there's lots of different ways, and it's not just for modeling, this can be for music or acting. There's a lot of different ways to go about getting someone to represent you. And that also first starts with doing your research of what you truly want to do. So for instance, if you want to be high fashion on a runway, most likely the person would need to find an agency that focuses on high fashion. If you are in a niche that maybe, because I think you are, isn't necessarily the popular or the norm, then I would recommend doing a manager and or an individual agent that's within a talent agency similar to mine, but just you could research it based on what they do. For instance, my agency really focuses on, I work with a lot of professional athletes, celebrities, radio hosts. So I don't really work with a lot of, not yet at least, I don't work with corporate yet. So I say that to say you want to find an agency that is catered to the niche that you're looking for. So if it's trying to get into just styling for people of your age, then that would be something that you might want to find. I know that for instance, Marla Dell, they're an agency in the city, and they work with all ages. And so does, I think, Stars. So it's kind of just depending on what you want to do. So it's not really one answer. But an agent legally is allowed to book you. A manager legally is not. A manager is only allowed to advise you technically. So that's the difference. If you're looking for someone to book you to jobs and money, then you should get an agent. If you're looking for someone to kind of coach and develop and give you advice, then you want to maybe have a manager. Some do both, like myself, but I am currently trying to get my license because I don't want to be in the gray area when I'm reading contracts and legal jargon, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, right? So my goal right now is making my current agency completely licensed so that it can move from both sides. Because before I was just doing more management development, and now I'm really trying to do more contracts. So with that being said, I think it takes doing research in your market. I literally use Google for everything. So I just would recommend seeing if there's agencies that are out there that are already doing what you're talking about.
There are, and I have, and so my question was about technique. How do I get them to notice that I'd like to have them represent me?
Sure.
So like,
Okay, go to the trade papers. It's called Backstage West. That's where I found my last agency, and you can find all different kinds of just niches, like if you want to do modeling, if you want to do acting. But I went on Backstage West, and they were advertising for new people to be represented by them. Also, ask your friends. Do you have any friends in the industry? Ask them. It's really who you know also. So have them be like, hey, I have my beautiful friend, and would you like to see
so
that?
that is who you know.
It's who you know, but also do your research for sure. But the trade papers saved me. So really look up Backstage West, or no, just backstage.com. West is in New York. So backstage.com.
And I say that because, for instance, with my agency, I can't just say, I'm a platform of equity, and then not be a platform of equity, right? So I actually physically have to make those decisions, and they can be hard. I actually did have somebody who was transgender. She was fierce, but she came in, and I also had to have the conversation of, which I hated to have, like what the industry is like right now currently for transgenders, and it is progressive, which is great. But I also, as somebody who has to hire with what the client wants, and I typically work with a lot of male clients, that doesn't mean that I want to be dishonest. I want to be transparent, and I want to make sure that I'm setting those people up, like I said earlier, for success. And so my job is to really find a place for anybody, like whether it's because they're short, because they're too tall, because they maybe are a little heavier, on the heavier side in modeling. Whatever it is that they feel is holding them back, my job is to actively put them in a position that will make them succeed based on listening to what they really want. Not based on what I want, not even based on what the client wants. It's really based on what you really want. And I think it really has to start with you. Like, right, if the person came into me, let's say it's a model, and said, I'm too short, I can't do this, but I really want to do it, then it's really listening and saying, okay, well, what do you really want to do? Is it print? Is it runway? Like, what is it? And then finding the niche, finding the market, and really pushing into that. Because if I don't do that, then who will, right? Like, I don't know if the person next to me will. I'm hoping they will, but I don't know that. And I don't even know that if I say no to them, that they will say no to themselves. Because maybe I was the person who closed that door. So if I don't do my due diligence and focus on what I need to do to better fashion society, then I can't really rely on anybody else to do so. So I feel like it really starts with like me and how I'm projecting to my audience and my target and the world.
Really encouraged me to start like getting more into that and being proud of who I am, because growing up like and seeing mostly like white male people on like the Hollister bags when you walk into the store, just like all around the media, I really started to like compare myself to them and be like, oh, like how can I change myself to fit the white mold, when in reality like I'm me, like I shouldn't like try to fit in with something that I'm not. So like what you guys said like really like I really felt that like and feeling like proud with who you are. And yeah, like because I even read recently about the feud between like Naomi Campbell and Tyra, and how like the modeling industry basically like pit them against each other when like they really weren't, and like being like the token black model in the industry. And like it's like, why should there be a token? Why can't both of them just be a part of it? Why, like, there's multiple white models, why can't there be multiple black models? So I just love that there's more diversity and that we're having this discussion, because it also inspires me to be proud of who I am. And also like feeling that I have a place, because I felt like throughout my life I felt like I never really had a place, and like I had to like compete with the I guess what I felt like were the most desirable fashion industry or the modeling industry. And yeah, Thank you.
You're beautiful.
Didn't resonate with people. People spoke out, and I feel like that really shows there's a disconnect between what people want and what the industry is giving out to the public. And so I'm wondering, and I'm curious, like, what do you feel about the industry today in kind of moving forward? I know, like, Virgil is now head of LV or design for LV, I think. I could be wrong.
Off-white.
Off-white. And so I'm curious, where do you see the climate today, and where do you see it going, especially with cancel culture and the public really speaking out about how they really feel?
Yeah, my, and I'm not on camera, so here we go. I'm gonna say from like a consumer perspective, and like also understanding like, I guess a creative process. At the end of the day, not everyone's gonna be happy. You know, you really can't please everyone. I think that when you're thoughtful and you're intentional about what you believe in, then you stay rooted in that. And so that shouldn't stop you. If you're a designer, it shouldn't stop you from moving forward with what you're creating, but also understand that intention and impact are two different things. And so I think to have a healthy relationship with what you intend to do versus how it will affect other people outside of you. I feel like as things progress, people are going to be more thoughtful. I don't think that it's going to stop though. Fashion industry in particular has and is what it is because of its provocativeness, because of controversy. So I don't think it's going anywhere. I think again, because of social media, we have more access to comment on it. I don't necessarily agree with all of the cancel culture because I think that some people don't realize that it is affecting like people's livelihood, or sometimes they cancel for larger companies for sure. Because I'm always wondering, like, how did this even happen? There needs to be checks and balances. I was a buyer for years. There is no way that it goes through so many different people before it hits the retail floor. And so I think it is forcing people to be smarter, but there will always be someone who is very not smart, that is in a position of power. And so I think that what's going to happen versus what I think we need to do are two totally separate things. And if we create our own lanes and make sure that we're dictating or putting ourselves in decision-making positions.
And take what you've given them and make it grow. You know, the information is definitely the key catalyst to pushing yourself forward. You can't really go forward if you don't know anything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think, you know, talking about kind of like social media keeps on popping in here, like we're getting information so fast.
Yeah.
And I think when all of us probably started, it was a little bit to the world.